So, freedom is so heavy to bear. The end of freedom is always a court sentence. Mon cher, for anyone who is alone, without God and without a master, the weight of days is dreadful. Hence one must choose a master, God being out of fashion. Besides, that word has lost its meaning. It's not worth the risk of shocking anyone. Take our moral philosophers, for instance. So serious, loving their neighbours and all the rest. Nothing distinguishes them from Christians, except that they don't preach in churches. What, in your opinion, keeps them from becoming converted? Respect, perhaps? Respect for men? Yes, self-respect. They don't want to start a scandal, so they keep their feelings to themselves. I knew, for example, an atheistic novelist who used to pray every night. That didn't stop anything. How he gave it to God in his books. What a dusting off, as someone or other would say. A militant free thinker to whom I spoke of this raised his hands, with no evil intention, I assure you, to heaven. You're telling me nothing new, that apostle sighed. They're all like that. According to him, 80% of our writers, if only they could avoid putting their names to it, would write and hail the name of God. But they do sign their names, according to him, because they love themselves, and they hail nothing at all because they loathe themselves. Since, nevertheless, they cannot keep themselves from judging, they make up for it by moralising. In short, their Satanism is virtuous. An odd epic indeed. It's not at all surprising that minds are confused and that one of my friends, an atheist when he was a model husband, was converted when he became an adulterer. Ah, the little sneaks, play actors, hypocrites, and yet so touching. Believe me, they all are, even when they set fire to heaven. Whether they are atheists or churchgoers, Muscovites or Bostonians, all Christians, from father to son. But actually there is no father left, no rule left. They are free and hence have to shift for themselves. And since they don't want freedom or its judgments, they ask to be rapped on the knuckles. They invent dreadful rules. They rush out to build piles of faggots to replace churches. Savonarolas, I tell you. But they believe solely in sin, never in grace. They think of it, to be sure. Grace is what they want. Acceptance, surrender, happiness, and maybe, for they are sentimental too, betrothal, the virginal bride, the upright man, the organ music. Take me, for example, and I'm not sentimental. Do you know what I used to dream of? A total love of the whole heart and body, day and night, in an uninterrupted embrace, sensual enjoyment and mental excitement, all lasting 5 years and ending in death. Alas. So after all, for want of betrothal or uninterrupted love, it will be marriage, brutal marriage, with power and the whip. The essential is that everything should become simple. As for the child, that every act should be ordered, that good and evil should be arbitrarily, hence obviously, pointed out. And I'm all in favour, however Sicilian and Javanese I may be, and not at all Christian, though I feel friendship for the first Christian of all. But on the bridges of Paris I too learned that I was afraid of freedom. So hurrah for the Master, whoever he may be, to take the place of heaven's law. Our Father who art provisionally here, our guides, our delightfully severe masters, O cruel and beloved leaders. In short, you see, the essential is to cease being free and to obey. In repentance, a greater rogue than oneself. When we're all guilty, that will be democracy. Not to mention the fact, Jeremy, that we must take revenge for having to die alone. Death is solitary, whereas slavery is collective. The others get theirs too, and at the same time as we. That's what counts. all together at last, but on our knees and heads bowed. Isn't it a good thing too to live like the rest of the world? And for that, doesn't the rest of the world have to be like me? Threat, dishonour, police are the sacraments of that resemblance. Scorned, hunted down, compelled, I can then show that I am what I'm worth, enjoy what I am, be natural at last. This is why, Trachère, after having solemnly paid my respects to freedom, I decided privately that it had to be handed over without delay to anyone who comes along. And every time I can, I preach in my church at Mexico City. I invite the good people to submit to authority and humbly to solicit the comforts of slavery, even if I have to present it as true freedom. But I'm not being crazy. I'm well aware that slavery is not immediately realisable. It will be one of the blessings of the future, that's all. In the meantime, I must get along with the present and seek at least a provisional solution. Hence I had to find another means of extending judgment to everybody in order to make it weigh less heavily on my own shoulders. I found the means. Open the window a little, please. It's frightfully hot. Not too much, I'm cold as well. My idea is both simple and fertile. How to get everyone involved in order to have the right to sit calmly on the outside myself. Should I climb up to the pulpit like many of my illustrious contemporaries and curse humanity? Very dangerous, that is. One day or one night, laughter bursts out without a warning. The judgment you are passing on others eventually snaps back in your face, causing some damage. And so what, you ask? Well, here's the stroke of genius. I discovered that while waiting for the masters with their rods, we should, like Copernicus, reverse the reasoning in order to win the day. Inasmuch as one couldn't condemn others without immediately judging oneself, one had to overwhelm oneself to have the right to judge others. Inasmuch as every judge someday ends up as a penitent, one had to travel the road in the opposite direction and practice the profession of penitent to be able to end up as a judge. You follow me? Good. But to make myself even clearer, I'll tell you how I operate. First, I closed my law office, left Paris, travelled. I aim to set up under another name in some place where I shouldn't lack for a practice. There aren't many in the world. But chance, convenience, irony, and also the necessity for a certain mortification made me choose a capital city of waters and fogs corseted by canals, particularly crowded and visited by men from all the corners of the earth. I set up my office in a bar in the Sailors' Quarter. The clientele of a port is varied. The poor don't go into the luxury districts, whereas eventually the gentlefolk always wind up at least once, as you have seen, in the disreputable places. I lie in wait particularly for the bourgeois, and the straying bourgeois at that. It's with him that I get my best results. Like a virtuoso with a rare violin, I draw my subtlest sounds from him. So I have been practicing my useful profession at Mexico City for some time. It consists, to begin with, as you know from experience, in indulging in public confession as often as possible. I accuse myself up hill and down dale. It's not hard, for I've now acquired a memory. But let me point out that I don't accuse myself crudely, beating my breast. No, I navigate skillfully, multiplying distinctions and digressions too. In short, I adapt my words to my listener and lead him to go me one better. I mingle what concerns me and what concerns others. I choose the features we have in common, the experiences we have endured together, the failings we share, good form, the man of the moment, in fact, such as reigns in me and in others. With all that, I construct a portrait which is the image of all and of no one. A mask, in short, rather like those carnival masks which are both lifelike and stylised, so that they make people say, why surely I've met him. When the portrait is finished, as it is this evening, I show it with great sorrow. This, alas, is what I am. The prosecutor's charge is finished. But at the same time, the portrait I hold out to my contemporaries becomes a mirror. Covered with ashes, tearing my hair, my face scored by clawing, but with piercing eyes, I stand before all humanity, recapitulating my shames without losing sight of the effect I'm producing, and saying I was the lowest of the low. Then imperceptibly I pass from the I to the we. When I get to this is what we are, the game is over, and I can tell them off. I am like them, to be sure. We're in the soup together. However, I have a superiority in that I know it, and this gives me the right to speak. You see the advantage, I'm sure. The more I accuse myself, the more I have a right to judge you. Even better, I provoke you into judging yourself. And this relieves me of much of the burden. Ah, mon cher, we are odd, wretched creatures, and if we merely look back over our lives, there's no lack of occasions to amaze and scandalise ourselves. Just try. I shall listen, you may be sure, to your own confession with a great feeling of fraternity.